I'm going to draw an analogy between the kind of work that software developers do and the kind of work that Navy SEALs do. And it's an analogy. So follow me here with this one. I might use this on a few of my upcoming videos. So back back in 2011, when the U.S. was able to finally go out and get Bin Laden. This was the culmination of a decades-long set of work in the intelligence agency and everything like that. And so when they called Navy SEAL Team 6 down to North Carolina to start preparing and practicing for the mission to go get Bin Laden, obviously there was a huge amount of work had been put into this, and they had built a mock-up of the compound where Bin Laden was hiding in, and so the Navy SEALs were able to go in there, and they had a base of stuff to start with, right? So the analogy is like, imagine that you were on a Navy SEAL and you got called down to North Carolina, and they said, hey, we're going to go get Bin Laden, and you're like, oh, awesome, that's awesome. We're Navy SEALs, we are go-getters, we are can-do attitude people, that's awesome. You just point us to the mock-up of the compound and we'll start practicing right away. And then they just look at you and say, we don't have a mock-up of the compound. And you're like, oh, okay. Well, give us the parts list. We'll go down to Home Depot and we'll buy all the parts we need, and we'll build a compound. And you're like, yeah, we don't have a parts list. And uh, and you say, oh, okay, well, give us a floor plan then, and we'll figure out the parts list, and we'll go down to Home Depot and buy the parts and come back and build it. And they're like, yeah, we don't have a parts list. And you say, okay, well, or we don't have a floor plan. And you're like, okay, well, give us the GPS coordinates then, and we'll reroute our satellites over the top, and we'll MRI image the compound, and we'll get the floor plan. We'll go to Home Depot, we'll buy the parts, bring it back, build the compound. So that's the analogy where what I'm trying to communicate here is that there's a huge amount of expectations put on the shoulders of the Navy SEALs, but the upper management and the executive leadership team and the upper management, they haven't put in any legwork at all, and they're now expecting miracles to come out of this Navy SEAL team. And so that's obviously an unrealistic expectation. But I do feel that way a lot in software projects that I've worked on, where that there hasn't been a whole lot of legwork on the part. It feels like that management and executive leadership hasn't really done their part in this. I mean, yes, I'm good at what I do, and I expect to be a go-getter and to be a persevering individual, and to persevere through roadblocks and all of that. So if I'm on the Navy SEAL team that's gonna go get Bin Laden, I expect to do my part, and we're gonna train our butts off, and we're gonna study all the intelligence data that we have and all of that, and then we're gonna go out on the final mission. But I also do expect, I mean, obviously this takes a village. I can't do everything myself, right? I mean, can't do all the CIA's job, and all the satellite job, and build all the airplanes, and coordinate with the Marines, and I mean, can't do everything, right? So there does obviously need to be some upstream work in all of this, that of project planning, preparation, so that when the work finally does filter down to the SEALs, that they have, that they have a clear mission that is within the scope of reason, right? And they can be given information. So in this analogy, the mock-up of the compound represents like your documentation system and your code base that you're going to, in the software developers represent either your Scrum team or the Navy SEAL team that's going to accomplish this. And going and getting Bin Laden is analogous to the bug or user story or feature that you're wanting developed on the code. And so in an ideal project, all of this work happens harmoniously together. I've been on projects where that wasn't the case, okay? I think maybe I've had some bad luck. Surely it's not every project out there is as dysfunctional as some of the ones that I've worked on. But there has to be a harmonious balance here between, that's the ideal world where everybody's doing their part, right? And as a developer, I'm going to be given a task, and I'm going to attack that task with the same level of veracity as if I were a Navy SEAL being asked to go on a combat mission, right? I mean, I'm gonna learn everything I can about that particular area of the code that's necessary. I'm gonna dig in. If I hit a roadblock, I'm not gonna let that roadblock stop me. I'm gonna persevere through that roadblock. I'm gonna do research. I'm gonna mind map, whatever. So the compound in the analogy represents sort of the documentation system and the code base. So I can do this deep diving research, and I can dig in, and I can go deep, and I can connect all the dots together. And what I sort of expect from the upstream chain of this is that there's been some investments that have been made in these things. And then I need to be given some tools that allow me to do this sort of deep diving, stop at nothing, give me a hard project, but still something that's doable. Like, I mean, it has to be something that's an achievable goal. And in order for it to be achievable, that means that there has to be that upstream work that goes into it too. So the tool that we're developing, it's called Open Squiggly, and it is a tool to do this sort of, deep diving type research where I can connect all of my source code and all of the documentation to the extent that documentation exists, and I can start to make connections between documentation and code. I can read documentation that's already there. I can write new documentation if that's needed. I can make sense out of existing documentation, and I can go searching around in the code, and I can create bookmarks, and I can create connections in the code. So as I'm working on a user story or bug, that I have this, I have this tool that facilitates this sort of the same thing that you'd expect from a Navy SEAL, right? A go-getter, stop at nothing, no roadblock, persevere through anything, project, assuming it's achievable goal, and but it's going to work out better if I have a tool to do that, right? A type of tool that facilitates that, and it's going to work out better if the upper management and my manager and the executive management chain has invested in those kind of tools, has invested in maintaining documentation along the way, has invested in a clean code base, and has allowed code to be refactored along the way. And then if all that comes together, you have a harmonious situation where everybody's firing on all cylinders. And the tool that I'm talking about also could be used by managers as well to do the deep diving, a deep diving kind of research into the code base and figuring out what needs to be done, what's the source, what's the root cause of this bug, and that kind of thing. It's not always as simple as just, like in the old days, if you had a bug, you would just set a breakpoint and trace through your code until you got to the bug. But in these days, with cloud-based and microservices and big, huge code bases and teams separated out into separate microservices and everything like that, and with service-oriented architectures and message buses and everything like that, it's not always as simple as a bug fix. It's not always as simple as set a breakpoint and then trace through it line by line until you figure out the problem. sometimes it's a much more complex kind of work that needs to be dug into a lot of times. So this kind of thing happens all the time in software development, and so that's what this tool, like I said, opensquiggly.com is the tool. It's a document. You think of it as a documentation system, kind of like Confluence, combined with code search, and then combined with a bookmarking system that allows it, turns it into kind of a Zettelkasten type system. I don't know if you've heard of Zettelkasten before, but it's basically a way to create. It's a type of note-taking system that allows you to create connections between thoughts. Tools out there like Rome Research and Obsidian are designed around a Zettelkasten system. So we're bringing some of those Zettelkasten ideas into Open Squiggly as well. So you have a way to search the code, search your documentation, and do this deep diving kind of research, so that when your manager gives you a bug and says, hey, here's a bug, nobody else knows anything about this code, we need you to do it, you have a way to do it, right? Thanks.